Now my turn. A procedure set up. So that means I need def set up, right? Does it require a parameter? No. Prompts the user to input the quantity of strings. And do you know it is this quantity of strings that will be stored in string data? Is that correct? An item count is that variable that should hold what? The quantity of things in the string data. That means I need to save this to what? I need to request the input and save it in what? In item count. Is that understood? According to this information that I read earlier, it says the global variable item count stores the quantity of item the array contains. And the quantity of item is what? Is the quantity of things that will be put in the what? In the list. Is that understood? Or I do it this way. I write user input is equal to input, enter the quantity of strings. Then I write that item count is equal to integer user input. Why do I have to do this? Because the input is a what? Is a string. And what am I dealing with? Quantity. It must be what? Is that understood? Good. So the question states that validate. It is between what? 1 and 15. That means the first thing I need to check if it is not between 1 and 15, isn't it? Isn't it? So the question does not say repeat, like we ask for the input if it is not. The question does not give any clarity about that. So if you like, use if you like, use while. Anyone you like is correct. But why we do it over and over until it is valid, isn't it? If we only do it once, isn't it? So if you like, use if you like, use while, both is correct. So let me use if. If item count is less than 1, okay, I want to write the one if it is not true, that is, if it is not valid. The question says validate. So I want to write if it is not valid first, isn't it? Or I can write if it is valid first, anyone. Is that understood? Anyone you like is not compulsory. The question does not say it must flow this way. Do you understand? Or item count is greater than 15. That is, if one of these two things happen, that means it is not valid, right? Is that understood? Point. Input is not valid. Must be between 1 and 15. Is that understood, everyone? And you know, if we only do it once and stop, isn't it? Then it stops. Else. What does else mean? If it is valid. That is, if it is between 1 and 15. Is that understood? Else, it is now valid. If it is valid, what does it say? Prompts the user to input what? Each string. Each string. That means I need a for loop to receive each string, right? So how many strings will I receive? The item count. So that means I have to write for num in range of what? Item counts. Now what am I supposed to do? Prompt the user to input each string and store what? In what? In string data. So does string data have any value before? No. Then I can write string data dot append input. Enter each string value. Okay, enter each string value. Okay, good. Is this fine? Yes. But the only thing is, I am using global variables and it is not rewritten in what? That means I will not be able to. But will that affect my mark? No. I will get my full mark, these 5 marks. But will my code run? No. Is that understood? Good. What am I supposed to do? Copy these two guys and put them inside. Like I said, it's not compulsory you correct the comment. If you like, right. Don't forget I was copying and paste, right? So now this is complete. Is this complete? I have completely answered the question. That's it. If it is not between 1 and 15, it will just print is not valid and stop, isn't it? If it is between, it what? It append each of them to what? To string data. Is this understood, everyone? Should I demonstrate the while loop as well? There's no need, right? You guys can demonstrate it yourself, isn't it? Okay, good. Now, how many of you got the full mark for this question? The question is or and. Am I supposed to have used or and and? This always causes confusion for students. Both are not the same. How would you know the one that is correct? You assume a value. I hope you guys understand that. Assume a value. Let's assume the input is -1. If the input is -1, is this condition true or false? True. Is this condition true or false? False. So it means either of them can be true. So is -1 valid? Is -1 valid? Is -1 valid? No, it's not valid. True or false is true. So is -1 valid? It's not valid, then this should be executed. Do you understand? So just take a value to confirm. Is that understood? Just assume that what if the input is -1? If the input is -1, is item count now less than 1? Yes, that means this one is true. Is item count greater than 15? Is false. All means either of them can be true, right? Now that one of them is true, then it's going to print it is not valid, isn't it? If I have used and, if the input is -1, is item count less than 1? Yes, isn't it? Is it true? Is it true? Yes. Is item count greater than 15? Is it true? No, it becomes true and false. So that means this will not be executed. It sees it as false, then it skips. And whereas that input is not valid. So that tells you that you're not supposed to use and, you're supposed to use or. Is that understood? So when you have a confusion, am I supposed to use or and? Take a value to test. When you test, you determine the one to use. Let's explain this very well because some people still have confusion about this. You are confused whether to use or and. You've written your code. Take a value that is not valid, that you know is not valid. Do you understand? An example is what? Let's say 16 or 0 or -1, isn't it? Just take anyone that is not valid and test it with this condition. Do you understand? Less than 1. Is this value less than 1? Then write false here. That's how you can use your pen and your book while solving. Is it greater than 15? That is true. Don't forget, the code says print invalid, isn't it? Now, true or false? True or false will give us what? False or true will give us what? From logic gates. 0 and 1 is what? So true or false is what? Is true. That means if you use or, will this condition be true or false? Then this will be executed. Do you understand? If your input is -1, if your input is what? -1, item count less than 1, is it true or false? Is true. Item count greater than 15, is it true or false? False. So true or false will give us what? That means this is true, then it will print what? Invalid. Do you understand? But if you have used and instead of or, you used and, then test with -1. Item count less than 1 is true. Greater than 15, false. True and false is what? Is false. So will it execute print invalid? It will now print that it is valid, which is against the requirement of the question. Do you guys understand that now? Is it well understood? So with now, what are you supposed to use now? And not and. So with that, you are very sure that you have made no mistake, that the value is all. So if you are confused in your exam, you don't know the right one to use, just use a value that you know that is invalid to test. After testing, you don't even know to go back to check it again because you know you have done the correct thing. Is that understood? Good. Now question C. The main program stores zeros in item counts. That is the first thing. Calls setup and then output the content of what? Write program code for the main program. Is this understood? Is main program part of the function? How many marks is it? 4 minutes. So I'm giving you guys 2 minutes. Solved. Okay, good. Welcome back again, everyone. We stopped at question C. And if you look at everything we've done, we haven't actually solved a question on linear search, isn't it? We are still solving questions based on what? General knowledge, the basics of Python programming, the syntax we've been doing in the previous classes. So let's move forward to the next. After writing the main program, so the main program has been what? Had been written, isn't it? And I told you yesterday it is not compulsory to write it as a function, isn't it? You can also write it outside of the function. Now the question now says that test your program with the following inputs and write them in the given order. Is that understood? Write them in the given order. So that when you have to test your program, if you did not write your main program as a function, just run. Is that understood? If you write it as a function, then you must call that function. If you don't call it, it will not run. Is that understood, everyone? If you did not write your main program as a function, just what? Run it, you get your result. But if you write it as a function, you must what? You must call the function for it to run. Is that understood, everyone? Okay, good. Then, since I've called it, let me run my program. So the question says, enter it according to the order it was given to you here, isn't it? So what is the first thing? 5. What is the first thing? Apple. The next, banana, grape, pear, orange. Pear, orange. Was that not what we were asked to do yesterday? We are asked to receive the input and what? And print the what? And output the contents of the what? Of the string data. So I outputted the content of the string data? Yes. Now, the question may be in two forms. The question might have said, output each content. Each content. What does each means? One by one. Was this outputted one by one or as a list? As a list. Is that understood? So if the question has said output each content, then you cannot output as a list. What would you have used to do that? Because whenever you see each, for loop should come to your mind. The procedure search data will. Procedure means a function, isn't it? So I have to write def search data. It will do what? Take a string as a parameter. Then I can write the parameter as word. Are you all following me? Okay, good. Now the question says that take a string as a parameter, which is what I've just done now, isn't it? So it says that search for the string in string data. So to search for the string in string data, this is linear search, isn't it? That means I need to take each of the element of what? Of the array and compare it with what? With the string, isn't it? Are you all following me? So that means I have to use, how do I take each of the values in the array? for loop. Then I have to write for, let's say for num in string data.
We have to declare the global variable.
Okay, good. So that means I have to bring back the global variable and put it there so I can use them, isn't it? Okay, good. For num in string data. So what am I comparing? So with num is, that means num will take each of the value in what? In string data. So I should compare with what? With the parameter, which is what? Word, isn't it? Then I have to write if what? Num is equal to word. Is this understood? The question says that search for the string in string data. Have I done that? Yes. Output whether or not the string was found. So you must output if it is found. You must also output if it is not found. That's why the question says whether or not. So you must consider both. Is that understood? If you write for one and you don't consider the other, then you haven't satisfied the requirement of the question. Is that understood? So how do you know if it was found? If they are equal, isn't it? If they are equal, then we can write print the item word is found. Is that understood? It is what? Found. That is output whether or not it was found. Is that understood? Now, if found, we are still in that same line. If it is found. If it is equal to this means it is found, right? Then we have output it is what? If it is found. The question still say if found, still in that same statement. It now says that what? Output the index of the string in the array. So with this, we cannot output the index. Is that understood? We cannot output because we are only taking each of the value one by one. So there's no way we can know the index. If we have said count equals to 0, I will now say count equals to count plus 1, that the count is just increasing, but that is not the index. If you want to use a variable count, for example, if the item is at number 7 and you say count equals to 0, if found count equals to count plus 1, don't forget that it will return the value of count as what? 1. But the index is at what? 7. Then it will be wrong. Do you understand? So what are you supposed to have done? Then you now go back to your code like, oh, I cannot return the index. That means there's something wrong I'm doing. So how do we correct that, or how do we access each of the index? Anybody? Yeah.
We use the range function and then we're going to use the indexes of the list.
So that means instead of taking each value in the list, we now instead of iterating with the values in the list, we iterate with the index. Is that understood? Instead of iterating what? With the values in the list, we iterate through the index. And how do we do that? By using what? The range function, isn't it? So instead we say for num in the range of the length in string of string data. Is that understood? And as well, you can also write that for what? In item count as well. Yeah, I have one. Yes, now that's correct now. I can also, instead of length of string data, I can also use what?
Item count.
Item count. Isn't it? Why? Because item count is what? The quantity of what? Of the strings, isn't it? That has been what? That has been set in setup. Is that correct? So either I use, they are both the same. So with now, what is now the value for range? 0, 1, 2. It depends on the value of what? Of item count, isn't it? So now, num is now what? It will now be 0, 1, 2, up to what? Item count minus 1, isn't it? So that means if item count is 15, it goes from 0 to 14. If item count is 13, it goes from what? 0 to 12. Is that understood? Now, so can I say if num equals to word again? No, I'm just comparing numbers with the set string. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to write if string data, then num equals to word. Is that understood? So this means it takes num to be 0. It now check if the first element, that is string data 0, equals to word. If it is not, it goes back and take the next one, isn't it? So it now writes item count is found at index
No.
index what? Index none. With this, I have now been able to return what? The index of at which it was found. Is that understood? So it says if found, output the index of the string in the array. Is that understood? So these two conditions is talking about the same thing. Because you will output if it is found, you will also output the index. Is that understood, everyone? Now it says whether or not, isn't it? Whether or not. So if it is found, the question does not say you should search through all the array. The question did not say you should return all the index at which it was found. Do you understand? If the question has said all the index at which it was found, that means you must search through everything and return all the index. But with this code, how many index are we going to return? 1. So that means after it was found, what are you supposed to do? Break away from the array. Is that understood? So after it was found, then you what? You break away from the what? From the if loop. It stops searching. Because it has been found. We don't care if there are multiples of them. Because the question does not care if there are what? If there are multiples of them. Is that understood? But if there are multiples of them, and the questions want you to return the what? The index of everything, then will you break out of the for loop? No. What are you going to do? Search through everything and return all the index. That means you have to save all the index to an array or to a string. Is that understood? Yes. That means you have to save all the index to what? To an array or to a string, so you can return all the index. Because if you don't save the index, if the first one is found, it's going to print at index, then it's going to print the other one, it's going to change it again. I think it will return all the index, right? Yes, it's true. It's true this way. Now, what if it was not found? Then I write else, right? Then print the search item was not found. Is that understood? Now, we are done. But like I always tell you, whenever you write your code, go back to your code to confirm that have you really done the right thing? So if you write this kind of code, then write an example. Make an example to what? To confirm if what you have written is working well. So let's assume we have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to search for a 3. What is the first element?
1.
What is the second element?
2.
What is the third element?
3.
What is the fourth element?
4.
You want to search for a
3.
3. Now, this if statement will confirm if 3 is equal to what?
3.
Is equal to the first one. But is it equal?
No.
No. What is going to print? The search was not found. It goes back to take the next one, which is now what? 2. It's search. After searching, what will it print again? The search was not found. It goes back to try the third one, right? What is now the third one? 3. Is it now found? It now right is found. Then that is a problem. The item was actually there. So why is it writing not found? Not found. Not is now right found. That means if the item is at the 99th index, it's going to write not found 98 times and now find once, found once. Is that supposed to be so? Was it not found in the array? It was found. Even if it was not found, is it supposed to write the found many times? It's supposed to search through and write it only once. That means I'm not supposed to write the print statement inside of the if function or inside of the for loop. It's writing it over and over because this print is inside the for loop. Because for loop will do things over and over. Is that understood? And that's why he's writing it over and over. Is that understood? So to prevent that means I need to take this print out of this for loop. It should not be in the for loop. If it is not in the for loop, then it does not write over and over. Then what should be in the for loop? So before I break, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to write if found is equal to, I'm supposed to write found is equal to true. I'm supposed to create another variable and make it to be true. So else, then I write found is equal to false. Is that understood? Then take this print again out of here. Everything should be away from the for loop. Everything should be out of the for loop. But there's going to be a problem with this found because found was not initialized, isn't it? Found is undefined. Then I'm supposed to come after the global variable and write found is equal to false. So in the first place, what is found? False. If it is now found, what is found now? True. If it is not found, what is found? False. So after the for loop is now completed, after the for loop is now completed, then I will now come out of the for loop and write if found. If what? Sorry, still in the what? Still in the function. Is that understood? Still in the function out of the for loop. Then I write if what? If found. If found is equal to true. If found is equal to what should happen? It should print the item is found at index this. Is that understood? Then else. Else it should what? It should print that the item is not found. Then this is only printed how many times? Once. Now to question E. It states edit the main program by prompt the user to input a search string. You guys know the main program, isn't it? And the main program is where? This is the main program. I wrote as a function, right? And I told you it is not compulsory to write it as a function. Is that understood? Okay, good. So the question says that edit the main program by prompt the user to input a what? A search string. So let's prompt. So that should be user input is equal to input, enter the search string. Is that correct? Okay, good. Then after that, call the procedure search data, isn't it? Then you call the procedure. Does that procedure feature return anything? No, so I don't need to save it to a variable, isn't it? Then I can write search data. Does it require any parameter? Yes. And pass the input as a what? So what do I pass as parameter? User input. Oh, thank you. Is this understood? Now it says that that is all. That is all. So that question has been solved. Do you know that the main program is before this search function, the search data function, isn't it? If you did not write your main program as a function, should it come before this function or after this function? After. Is that understood? But because I wrote it as a function, then it can come before. What do I need to do? I need to call the function main program after the search data function. Is this understood? Good. Now that I have written my main program, then the question now says test your program code with the following input. So let's test. Okay, what is the first input? 5. Then grape, banana, pineapple. Grape, banana, pineapple. What is the next? Lemon, berry. Lemon, berry. Enter the search string. What is the search string? Lemon. So you just input it in the order. Is that understood? Then lemon. The item. Oh, I wrote double M as lemon and I was searching with one M. So that means I need to do it again, isn't it? So you have to be careful in your exam because if you have not fun in your exam, you are going to lose the mark for that running. Is that understood? So you will lose this 2 marks. Yeah, you might lose these 2 marks. So let's start again. 5. Grape, banana. Grape, banana. Pineapple. Then what is the next thing? Lemon, berry, then lemon. So the item lemon is found at index 3. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. Is that not correct? So I hope this is well understood, everyone. And you can solve any problem as far as linear search is concerned. Is that correct? Good.